gang. As you know, I'm Steve Austin. You're watching Rick's Corner, and that's the bottom line, because I said so.
All right, welcome to Rick's Corner. I have a very good friend of mine, a very, very well-known person, one of the best pro wrestlers in the world, who brought fame to himself in WWE, and he's a wonderful guy, and it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rattlesnake, is sitting here with me. And
You weren't supposed to tell everybody I was a wonderful guy.
But you are. And I just did his podcast, which you're going to have to listen to on Podcast 1, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about wrestling, we talked about bodybuilding, we talked about how much we look alike and who's the better looking one.
It was a lose-lose. Nobody won that one.
Nobody won that one. So Steve, listen, you're a little bit younger than me, and you had aspirations when you were in school of doing something. Was it pro wrestling, or did you have something else you wanted to do, or did you just fall in pro wrestling?
No, man, my dad was an insurance salesman, so I just figured, man, I'd go down the road and do, what my dad did.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, because I started watching pro wrestling when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I figured, that's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
That was, but before that, I really wanted to be a rock and roll singer, but I couldn't sing. I don't have any musical ability. So anyway, after going through college and playing college football, getting a free education, math was just kicking my ass. So that and accounting. When I first started the accounting class, debits and credits, it seemed like, oh, this is easy, it's fun.
Yeah.
Then I started throwing the real deal accounting at me, so I dropped it like a hot potato and changed to a PE major. With 17 hours before I graduated, I decided to drop out of college, work full-time at the freight dock, loading and unloading trucks with a forklift, and that's when I saw a commercial on television by Chris Adams, wrestling school, and I joined up, and that's where my career was headed. And that was at about 24 years of age when I knew that's what I was going to do.
Do I need to sit here, or can he just go off by himself? It's okay? No, what I'm going to say is, you weren't good in math, but you could count to 3 in the ring.
No, dude, I can count to 3. I can add, subtract, divide, multiply. I
Yeah.
got the 4 basics done.
Yeah.
I'm pretty smart in that regards. I was a National Honor Society student. I always made good grades because, you had to. I mean,
Yeah.
my parents had a high level of expectation for
Right.
us. And, it wasn't no lollygagging around. You did your homework. But when it came down to, the further advances of math, not so much.
Okay. I was kidding about the 3.
And when you count to 3, I always like to be on top when that 3 hits.
That was my whole point right there. All right.
I know where you're going.
All right. With the training with Chris Adams, you trained every day?
No, it was, they ran the Dallas Sportatorium on Friday nights,
Yeah.
and then Saturday mornings they did the television taping, which would live to tape out on KTVT Channel 11 on Saturdays.
Okay.
That happened in the morning at the Sportatorium. Right after that, the crowd would roll out, and we'd go in,
Yeah.
and we'd have about a 2-hour class once a week on Saturday with about, it was about 25 to 30 when we first started strong, and then by the time it was all said and done, between about 20 and 25 cats. So you got one ring.
Yeah.
2 instructors, Chris and a guy
Yeah.
named Chico.
Yeah.
So time in a ring might only be 15, 20 minutes
Sure.
a week.
That's not a lot.
No, it ain't. But when you're first just going through the, the rolling drills, tumbling, stuff
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
just repetition, taking flatbacks, you're getting a lot of ring time then. But
Yeah.
when it comes down to doing the wrestling and with all those different people trying to pair up in just one ring, not so much.
Did you find it difficult at the time? But you're an athlete, so it couldn't have been that bad.
No, that was one thing. When I first went, there was a seminar that you had to pay $45 to go to maybe see about if you're interested in going to the school. So
Yeah.
Chris could also put some more money in his pocket.
Sure.
And so, all of a sudden, I showed up. I just got finished playing college football. About 250 pounds, long blonde hair, jacked up, good looking.
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, I stood out. And I dressed up. Dude, I mean, I didn't have any money. I had some black Gerbeau pants, a purple shirt, some black loafers. I looked good.
Yeah.
I dressed the part. And here's a true story. I was really embarrassed. We're at the Dallas Sportatorium, and I'm standing in line trying to get into the school with a bunch of people that are, pretty normal cats. As the people are coming off from the TV taping, they're coming up to me while I'm in line asking me for my autograph. They don't know who I am.
Sure.
And so I'm sitting there saying, I'm not a wrestler yet. I said, my name is Steve Williams. I don't even wrestle. I'm here to learn how to wrestle.
Yeah.
We don't care. We just want your autograph. You're going to make it.
Sure.
So there I am. I feel like a real asshole because here comes wrestlers out to their cars and I'm signing Steve Williams on a piece of paper.
Exactly.
Really weird. But I stood out.
You could have signed Rick Drasin, they would have known.
Same. What a tag team we would have
Can
been.
you imagine that? How long did you train before you got your first match?
It was about, I think it was right around that 4 to 5 month mark. And all of a sudden, Chris pulled me aside. Now, bear in mind, this was '89. I was the 1990 Rookie of the Year for Pro Wrestling Illustrated,
Okay.
due to the angle I would go on to shoot with Chris Adams and all that stuff. But all of a sudden, he calls me aside and says, "Hey, man, I think you're ready for your first match." And it was going to be a guy out of Louisiana named Frogman LeBlanc. Now, Frogman was kind of a journeyman guy, you know, enhancement guy.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the greatest worker in the world, with all due respect to me. He's a good dude. So we went out there, kind of set up the match. Now, he didn't smarten me up yet. No one was talking about calling high spots or how a match even worked.
Sure.
We didn't even talk basic psychology. I knew how to take a bump. I knew, you know, how to roll, and I knew some basic chain wrestling. That's all I knew going into that match. I ended up winning it with a clothesline, and it was my first match ever, and it happened to be a television match. So absolute brutal way
Sure.
to get thrown into the business.
Sure.
We stunk the joint out.
I'm sure.
And you can watch the tape on YouTube and see how bad it was.
Did you learn hold to hold then? I mean, did you know hold to hold at the time?
No, man. I mean, just we'd set some stuff up and went through some high spots. And
You know how it is for reversals and stuff. And guys
yeah. But you, as you know, I mean,
Yeah.
kind of like you teach wrestling.
Yeah.
Someone can teach you how to wrestle to give you the basic knowledge. But
course.
it's like anything, man. You don't really pick it up until it's on the job training, and you're doing it repetition, town after town after town.
That's the only. You asked me a question in the house about how long did it take me to really learn the business and smarten it up. You know, it takes a while. You never can know for sure. You know, the first year or so, what's really going on, and someone's going to really shoot with you if it's real, or what's going on. Am I supposed to sell this, and is this going to hurt, and what are they doing, and, right?
Well, here's the deal. I was in the ring, and I had a lot of great talent that I was working with back in the Sportatorium days. Guys that didn't get really great breaks, but they were very good mechanics in the ring.
Yeah.
And who I really looked up to as workers, one in particular was a guy named Billy Joe Travis. He was kind of doing a honky-tonk man kind of routine in USWA, and he called a spot. One tackle, drop down, hip toss. Okay, he had the headlock. So I sent him into the ropes. He's going to give me the tackle.
Right.
I'm going to drop down and hip toss him.
Right.
Well, I'm 250 pounds. Billy Joe Travis is about $190. So I'm thinking in my head, since I'm 250 and you're $190, you're going to take the tackle. He was the man in motion. We weren't working a strongman routine.
Right,
so
right.
after he hit me, after about a 2-second pause, I'm thinking, oh, I'm the one that's supposed to fall down. So I take the bump after 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and then because I didn't really hear him very
Yeah.
well, and I was really guessing what was next. Remember, the spot was tackle, drop down, hip toss.
Yeah.
I finally took the tackle. Then he dropped down. Then I dropped down, and he passed over me. I didn't get up for the hip toss, so he jumped over me on the what is it? What it was called? Tackled on a drop down.
Drop down, right? Yeah.
And edit that part out. And he had to start putting the boots to me.
Yeah.
So I was dumber than a rock when I first got in the business, and that's just a sign of greenness.
This is just what happens, and that's how you, like you say, you learn on the job. It's on the job training. How many years did you work these matches before you decided, or before you had a chance to go to WWE? Was it WWE at the time?
No, well, I mean, I started off down there in Dallas, and after 2 months of, they ran the sporting on Friday nights, and then they'd work a big card then, and Saturday was a television taping.
Yeah.
So as that young white meat babyface, all the heels would come in, P.Y., Chu High, whoever it was, they'd beat the hell out of me with kendo sticks and weightlifting belts.
Sure.
And after about 2 months of that, Jarrett had just bought Fritz Von Erich out. I was working on a freight dock, driving a forklift for Watkins Motor Lines, and I went up to Jerry Jarrett and said, hey, man, when do you think I can start working full time? He said, hell, Steve, I think you're ready now. Of course, I wasn't ready, but
Yeah.
there I was 2 weeks later, driving my Hyundai Excel to Mid-South Coliseum there in Memphis, Tennessee, to have my first match. So about 1.5 years total time in USWA,
Yeah.
and then I start getting the word on the street, WCW's been looking at you, they want you to give them a call. I called Dusty, flew me in for a meeting, 1.5 years in the business, get a break in WCW, there for about 4.5, 5 years, get fired, little ECW run with Paul Lee, and then WWF.
Okay. When was it you shaved your head to look like me?
I shaved my head to look like you, and actually, when I was healing up from my tricep tear, and I got fired, I was in the process of growing my long blonde hair back. Now,
Yeah.
the problem was, man, I got a receding hairline, and my hair color was absolutely beautiful. People, back in the day, growing up in Edna, Texas, old ladies would come up to me and they'd say, do you bleach your hair?
Yeah.
Of course I didn't, man. I was some country kid from a little town.
Yeah.
I just had beautiful hair. I didn't get the lifetime guarantee, though.
Yeah.
So I needed to change my look, and when I came into WWF at the time, Vince said, hey, can you change your look up a little bit? And so I just did the buzz cut, a la Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
And so that's what inspired that. And then one time we were working in Pittsburgh, Mellon Arena, myself and Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, were traveling together, and I said, man, to hell with this buzz, I might as well just cut all this stuff off. And so before the show in Pittsburgh that night, I shaved my head, and then I kind of come in with the mustache and the goatee and started putting the look together. So it's kind of like an experimental process, and it's almost that evolution that you probably went through, you know, in your early days or even in your musical days, where you start off with something and you end up with finally, you know, what gets you to the point, what can make you money, which is what I'm always telling talent these days is, you know, if you're not there, if you're a hell of a worker and what you're doing is not connecting with the audience, don't be afraid to experiment around with your look, the things that you're doing, your style of work. Keep playing with the formula, because it took me 7.5 years of paying dues to finally be an overnight sensation.
This is what happens. It happened with me. I was doing a lot of commercials, a lot of films, and all of a sudden my hair's starting to check out back here. It could be from taking testosterone, I don't know. But I'd see it in the mirror and I'd say, oh my God, I got a lot of scalp showing back there. And I'd go on an audition, I'd wear a baseball cap. I said, I don't know what I'm good for. I got to do something. So some guy in the gym drew a picture of me with my head shaved, and I said, oh my God, I like that. And then you've seen this. And so I shaved my head the very next day. And I said, I will never grow hair again.
Well, I got lucky, and so did you, because I mean, I got a pretty good shaped head, as you do. I mean, some people just ain't got a good shaped head to not have hair.
That's right.
So I got blessed in that regard. Here's the thing: I was down there in WCW. I was kind of starting to lose my hair, and so I don't know how it was for you, because it's interesting, because you were broke into business and trained by Mae Young, the WWE Hall of Famer, and a woman back in '65.
Right.
So my relationship with Chris Adams was, he was my mentor. When you're breaking in pro wrestling, for some reason, you always think that the guy that broke you into business has the answer to all life's problems. So I'm down in WCW, at least this was in my head. So I called Chris Adams, because I'm starting to lose my hair, and I'm going to ask him, what do you think I should do?
Yeah.
And I called him and said, hey, Chris, man, I'm starting to lose my hair. You know, I said, you got any recommendations? What should I do? He goes, I don't know what the language parameters are. So he goes, fuck, Steve, I don't know. Then he's just some wrestler from England. How's he supposed to know what I'm supposed to do? Because I'm going bald. So I book an appointment with the Hair Club for Men. I go in, there's a very attractive blonde-headed lady. I sit down on a stool just like this, and she's got these 2 wooden tongue depressors. She starts carving through my scalp, and she goes, yeah, you know what, we can put this here, we can move this over here, and we can put this over here, and it'll be just fine.
Oh, no.
And I'm just going through the motions with her. And she's telling me what the process is going to be. And I'm thinking, man, ain't nobody moving no hair follicles around on my head and putting any kind of hair plugs or whatever. So at that point, I decided that I was going to just let nature run its course, and turned out things played out the way they did. And it was a good thing, too, Rick, because when I was in WCW, I was really heavily influenced by the work that Ric Flair was laying down. And, you know, Rick was kind of like, you know, not really, it was a chicken shit hill. But, I mean, very aggressive when he got the heat on one of the all-time great motors in the business. Yeah. And start off on a body part, then, you know, let the other guy up a little bit, then go really start grinding down and start working that leg to set in for a figure 4, but always on the back paddle if the other guy started in the offense and beg off. So I kind of modeled my work off of that. And when it turns out to shave the head and come up with a Stone Cold persona, it was more in line and in tune with who and what I was as a competitor in any athletic endeavor I've ever undertaken, whether it's football, baseball, or whatever. Just hammer down, go for broke with a killer instinct. Right. And that's the way you play the game to win. Sure. So once I took all the hair off, grew in the goatee, I came into my own. I came into my own as being who and what I am. I did the same thing, except when I started with Mae Young, when you say you always go to your mentor and they have the answers for you. When I broke in, I had curly hair and blue eyes, and it was like the blonde Adonis from the beach, and she had curly hair, and so I thought, I'll just get a one-piece women's bathing suit and I'll wear that for my first show, but because that's what she wore. But it didn't really work for me, so she said, no, scratch that. You got to get tights. Yeah. And that's what it was. I want to go into bodybuilding too, but I want your advice on something, because I get a lot of calls from people who want to come here and train, and every one of them says, I'm going to be the next WWE superstar. It's my dream. This is what I want to be. And they're anywhere from 9 years old to 40 years old. And it's a long, hard road. I have no doubt about that. It's not going to happen overnight. No, and the thing about it's so hard about the system these days, these kids today it's really tough to be a pro wrestler these days. Yeah. And they can call it sports entertainment all they want. To me, it's always pro wrestling. Right. That's what you're doing. Once you get in the ring, you're wrestling. You're telling a story. So that's what it is. There's no options. There's WWE, and that's it. Yeah. You can go to Japan, whatever. Yeah. Some of the guys that have been around for a long time going over there. And especially if you're an amateur athlete, you know, you've got a natural inroad over there. But as far as being here, and with the way the internet wrestling community is, everybody's so smart. it's just a tough time to break in and
Sure
be
is.
successful in this business. And I think, gone are the days of, the guys like Dusty Rhodes, the guys like, and he's heavy set, a guy like Jacob Snake Roberts, who's an A-frame, who's one of the best workers of all time. It's all about bodies and looks these days.
It is.
And that really, that's hard. Because look, you got to be realistic. How many guys roll in here to your school that are 6'3", 240, and got a six-pack?
Very rare. None.
Right.
None.
So-
One guy. He's there at WWE now.
Yeah.
But even he's not doing anything. So.
So whatever level you want to get to, you got to be really realistic to what you're looking at in the mirror. And that's really the plain hard truth.
That's exactly what I tell him.
But that goes the same for anybody. Okay, here's a kid, he wants to be a brain surgeon, but he's dumber than a rock.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to look himself in the mirror and face those facts. So it's
Sure.
not always about the physical. It's about what tools you've been given in life.
For whatever the career calls for.
Right.
And wrestling calls for that type of
Right.
look for their career. Bodybuilding is a plus, and you got into bodybuilding when?
Man, I wasn't really into, I wouldn't say bodybuilding, but
Well, you built
man,
this magnificent machine.
Dude, I don't know about this is a carcass. It's a walking, talking carcass that has somehow weathered the storm that I've put it through. But man, going back to the old days, Rick, the 70s era bodybuilders really caught my eye. As a kid coming
Yeah.
up, I was born in '64. So just, and back then, every now and then you see a bodybuilding competition on television. And Powerlifting USA, I subscribed to that magazine, or bought it.
Yeah.
I was a big Powerlifting USA fan. So, but my whole thing was, I knew genetically I wasn't that gifted to be a pro bodybuilder, but as part of my, pursuits and athletics were football, baseball, track and field, throwing the discus,
Right.
And being a running back on the football team, I always wanted to be in shape and just be the biggest guy in high school.
But you train like a bodybuilder.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely train like a bodybuilder and eat like a bodybuilder.
Okay.
But drink like
Yeah. like fish.
a fish.
It's true, but because bodybuilding lifestyle, for me, when I was competing, okay, I got a couple of trophies there somewhere, but they never put any food on the table. And whenever all the guys were competing and going to contests, I started wrestling here for Mike LaBelle. And I thought, if I'm going to build this body to do something, I might as well make money with it. So I can make it in the ring a night. I can make my whatever is $25, $30 a night, which added up back in '65.
Right.
And then I got some commercials and films in between because of it. And the other guys are taking trophies home. They're starving. They can't even buy a steak at night. So I figured that turn that into money and turn the body into money and do something that's going to bring it back to me. And so it worked.
Yeah, and going back to just the paychecks. When I got into the business of pro wrestling, I was looking to, like I said, I was going to be an insurance salesman like my dad. But when I first got into the business of pro wrestling, man, it was strictly because I was in love with, telling a story inside a squared circle.
Exactly.
I didn't have any aspirations about what kind of money or coin
Nope.
I could make.
No.
It wasn't about, and in kind of a way, I want to be the world champion, but after you get 5 or 6 years in the business, then you want to be the world champion. When I got in, I just thought being a wrestler would be the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And that's as far as I set my sights, and from a monetary standpoint or in regards to awards.
It's funny because I have a slogan up at it. I was wrestling when wrestling wasn't cool. Back in the '60s, it wasn't cool.
Right.
Family said, "Why would you be that?" And those guys don't do what it is. It's stupid. It's like a sideshow. And I don't know. I just wanted. It was like playing a guitar. Now I'm in the ring doing something else. I didn't do it for the money. I never done anything I had for the money. I did because I loved it.
Yeah.
And if you love something, the money will come if you're really diligent about it and you do it. In bodybuilding, now at 70 years old, I can carry around what I do in my body. People say, "My God, how do you stay in shape at your age?" And I got a whole new audience from 50 to 70 years old of guys that say, "Can you help me get into shape?" And so I can, and I enjoy doing that. It's good to help people.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I was checking out your Rick's Corner before I came over to talk to you for the podcast and looking at all this stuff. Hey, you got a good thing going on here because with your YouTube channel, because you've talked to some really interesting people.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking, okay, Rick's just talking to bodybuilders. No, he doesn't.
No.
You're talking to people from all actors, stunt people.
If you listen to the one I just did with Jerry Branham, do you know Jerry?
No.
No. He is the guru of bodybuilding as far as science and the body and metaphysics and how these cells work. And I had him on just the other day, and people say, bring him back. He was talking about synthol and fatty acids and this and that. It's amazing what he knows. But those are the people I want.
Hey, break down I know this is your show, but break down a little bit of synthol for me because, the one dude, the Valentino guy who was jacking his biceps.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that stuff, I've never messed with it, never seen it in my life, but how does that necessarily go to the body?
It's called,
bicep
I think it's called MTP oil or MT oil, and you can buy it on bodybuilding.com.
Right.
It's an oil, and it's a fatty oil. It's like a coconut oil sort of thing, and you shove it into the muscle, and you let it go in, and it encapsulates behind the muscle and pushes the muscle forward.
Right.
And so it encapsulates itself because your body protects itself from it spreading around, and you have to do a little bit every day, bigger, 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 but it's not muscle. So if you think you're going to be stronger or be any really muscular bigger, you're really not.
But I want to go on record just because do not mess with synthol.
No.
If you want to be a pro bodybuilder, that's your business. But 99.9999% of people that's watching this show, you don't want anything to do with no synthol.
No, it's ridiculous.
Like I said, I've never seen it, but I'm intrigued by it. But I mean, completely, absolutely stupid.
Well, the people that do it,
In my opinion.
well, I agree with you. When they do it, I saw a guy's bicep look like a loaf of bread on this side. This side looked like a French roll. I mean, it wasn't balanced.
It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. It's just not worth doing. You train hard, you do what you do.
Okay, and if it sounded good while you're in a competitive flavor because you're 24 years old and it's always been your dream to be a professional bodybuilder, let me fast forward the process and say you get a chance to live to be 70, 75, and you got that ball of shit in your arm.
Yeah.
It's going to be dumber than hell. So I'm taking you into the future here on the
not only that, what happens if it breaks down and goes in your bloodstream and then you get a stroke?
But again, it's like we were talking on the podcast. What goes up must come down.
Yeah.
So be aware of what you put into your body at any level. And then we were talking earlier on my show about whether it's alcohol, steroids, this, that, or whatever. Whatever you do is going to come back on. You know, when you go full circle, it's going to come back to haunt you.
That's exactly right. One more thing before we close, and I want to know now with your acting career, because you went in from wrestling to acting, it was a great platform to get you out there, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I never did really have any aspirations about getting into acting. You know, when I had to leave the business of pro wrestling, it took me about 3 years to kind of get that out of my system. Man,
Yeah.
Hey, man, I tell you what, I drank a lot of damn whiskey and vodka and beer, and I wasted 3 years of my life just, well, don't get me wrong, I had a good time, and I hunted, I fished, and I did a lot of drinking, but I wasn't going anywhere. I just figured, hey, at 40 years of age, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
Well,
To do what?
just retire, yeah, exactly.
To
Do
do
what? I was bored as hell, and finally I said, you know what, dude, you better get your ass out to Hollywood and try to rustle up a way to make a living. Because when I was still in WWE, at the time, you know, I did about 11 episodes of Nash Bridges, and I had a great time out there working with Don Johnson, and enjoyed the process. Wouldn't call myself a good actor, but you know, after you drove a forklift for you know, a pretty good while, and you get to the business of pro wrestling, you don't want to go back to driving a forklift. So I want to go to the next, you know, take the rocket booster to the next stage, and my name allowed me to do that.
Sure.
So I came out here and lived with Diamond Dallas Page for about a year and a half, about a year, whatever it was, and drank a lot of vodka and whiskey out here, and then finally started getting serious, laid down a couple of independent movies. Got hired on by WWE to do Tough Enough, which led me to Redneck Island, which led me to my show, Broken Skull Challenge. So what I've fallen into by way of acting is the reality genre of, you know, television.
Right.
And that is what I really enjoy doing right now. I do my podcast twice a week. It's the Steve Austin Show, and you download them free on podcastone.com or iTunes. And the Tuesday show is family friendly. The Thursday show is explicit content. Everything's off the rail. That's the way I conduct my conversations most of the time. So I'm busy doing those. I'm just going, tomorrow I'm leaving to go do Redneck Island. That'll take 26 days.
Yeah.
I'll be back in town for a week, and then we go right into production for Broken Skull Challenge, and we're in the works for making another show, or I am anyway, and I'll go down to the ranch for about 2 months of deer hunting.
Yeah.
But that's really what I like to focus my time on. We were talking earlier about going to auditions.
Yeah.
That's the most nerve-wrackingest thing that I've ever done in my life, and I won't audition anymore.
I won't either.
And if I was 24 years of age, and I've said this before, and I didn't want to come across as arrogant as not being a person who didn't want to go through the audition process, it's because I'm where I'm at in my life. If I was 24 and wanted to get into acting and with the same intensity that I wanted to pursue professional wrestling, you're damn right. I'd be in acting classes. I'd be in class after class after class after audition, going through the paces and paying my dues.
Right.
I'm not at that space now.
No,
I'm lucky enough that I can pick and choose and keep myself busy at about the pace that I want to be and not go audition. Now, don't get me wrong. Am I saying to anybody out there that says, hey, you know, I saw Steve Austin on Rick's Corner, he says he don't give a shit about acting. I'm not saying that.
No, you're not saying that.
I'm saying you got a part for me, you want to pay me the right kind of coin, and we can make the business line up, and it's a good deal for me.
Sure.
And it's a good role. Yes.
I get a call for an audition at West Side at 5 o'clock on a Friday. I'm not going. I'm not going over the hill at 5 o'clock on a Friday and stand in line.
Traffic, dude. I mean, I'm the same way. The traffic in LA is so bad, and like I'll tell my wife, she goes, "You don't want to go to that audition?" I say, "Shit, no." She goes, "Why?" Well, they want me to go at 3 p.m. and then when I get done, it's going to dump me right in LA
Exactly.
traffic. So
I
don't do it.
I got a good one before we close.
Yeah.
I got a call 2 years ago from my agent. They want you they really want you bad. They love you. They want you over this.
Same old routine.
You don't really want me,
Yeah.
but when that's a kiss of death.
Yeah.
And they want you to wear your Speedos and oil up. Yeah. Yeah. I only do that at night for you, right? So I'm not going to do it over the hill on an audition.
Hey, I got one for you. When I first came to LA, you first go out there, you start making rounds because you are trying to get in acting.
Yeah.
And so, like, day you go in the office and like, I can't believe we haven't done anything with you before. They give you the 2 or 3 scripts. Okay, man,
Yeah.
check these out. We'll call you. And you walk out and you think, shit, I just got a part in a couple of movies.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. You didn't get nothing. They just gave you the 2 or 3 scripts they give to everybody else who comes in there and, just get you out of the office.
Well, now they put you on a veil. Can you be on a veil? Nope, I'm not available. So, nope,
Yeah.
I'm not available. Sorry,
Dude,
I'm not
these
available.
days, with everything that I've been through, in life in general, and
Yeah.
you know this, I
Yeah.
mean, on-the-job training or experience in life,
Yeah.
and with age comes wisdom, unless you're one dumb son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But I can smell bullshit a mile away, so I don't put myself.
Can I ask
in
one more
it.
question? Is it
Yeah,
hot? Is it hot in here?
yeah, it's real hot. I'm just begging you to remodel this thing, put some air conditioning on, and invite me back for round 2.
Okay, we're going to do that. I want to thank you for doing this for me. I really appreciate it. Keep it loose, brother.
Always talking
Keep
to
it
you.
loose.
Hey, don't give me that bullshit handshake.
It's really been a pleasure doing your podcast and having you here, and we have a lot of fun together, and that's what it's all about. And stay tuned. Next time I'll bring you some more people. But having Steve Austin with me has been a real thrill because we look so much alike, and it's really hard to tell who's the best looking one. We both got perfect heads, and these heads should not have hair. And then, in fact, I found out one thing: the less hair I have, the more head I get. Okay, see you guys next time.
Hey, it's Steve Austin. As you can see, I'm in Rick's corner, and that's the bottom line, because we said so.
It's rickdrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.